In a recent statistic, it showcased how as of May 7th, 2026, Polkadot had over 9,000 developers and almost 700,000 commits. But why is that the case? Well, in today's video, I'll attempt to break that down to my perspective, but I first want to clarify nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, I think seeing over 9,000 developers as of right now, and keep in mind, this is according to a chart basically by ChainSpec, but why could that be the case? Well, I think it's because Polkadot, in terms of a layer zero blockchain, I think it's arguably the most popular, right? Combine that with the fact that we recently saw Polkadot 2.0, the upgrade basically, I think that in a sense created this perfect storm. In a good sense though, because that right there, I think just made it even more favorable for developers to kind of build. That's just my opinion, because if we take a look at Polkadot 2.0, we saw an aspect of elastic scaling, and apparently a lot of developers do care about that, which is very surprising, again, seeing this right here when it comes to Polkadot. Keep in mind, Polkadot, according to this chart, is ranked higher than Ethereum, Cardano, Arbitrum, Optimism, and many others, even allegedly higher than Bitcoin. But that's besides the point, though. When I take a look at that right there, I think it's pretty impressive. People don't really consider sometimes Polkadot to have even this statistic to begin with, because they often assume that, wow, its native token called DOT, it's well below $2. It's not even $1.50. Why would a developer even care about something like Polkadot? But in the meantime, though, we have to think about this as well. Developers, if they want to build, sometimes the charts are not what they always take into consideration. They want to build on something that they actually like fundamentally. Because some of these developers, their mindset isn't hours, days, weeks, months. Sometimes they want to build something for multiple years to come. So of course, they would have to be, I think, choosing the right place, the place that they like the fundamentals of, or a place that supports what they want to build. In which case, I think Polkadot, to a certain extent, has kind of showcased why a lot of developers might choose this. Granted, though, people like to say, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Well, I think it does, because if the market were to pick up, let's say, what these developers build, sometimes if that gains adoption, it's kind of like, as the old saying goes, right? A high tide raises all ships. If what they build on Polkadot has a lot of adoption, has a lot of attention, sometimes it kind of brings Polkadot along with the ride. We've seen that when it comes to the case of Ethereum, and of course many others. Yeah, sure, Polkadot's not doing the best, but a lot of other projects are not doing the best either. But unlike a lot of other projects out there, Polkadot at least can say that they have over 9,000 developers, at least as of May 7th, 2026. Whereas a lot of other projects that also had a pullback like Polkadot, they can't say that, right? So if the common denominator is that a lot of these projects are having a pullback, what do we take a look at? We take a look at the differentiating factor, in which case I feel like Polkadot just has some other projects beat in terms of the amount of developers that they do have. Now, granted though, people like to say, like, again, this is not going to matter, but we have to think about this sometimes in a more long-term basis. This sometimes, again, does matter for better adoption moving forward. And let's take a look at why Polkadot's use case, even though if I put it in a simple way, it may sound like so, I think, simple, which, kind of makes sense, right, if I break it down in a simple way. But I'm just saying, I think it is useful though. And let me explain what I mean by this. Polkadot, if I were to put it in kind of simple terms, it's basically focused on connecting blockchains together. It's focused on interoperability, basically. It may sound like, again, very simple, right? Like, that's such a, like, easy thing to do, some people would arguably say. And yeah, sure, we see some other projects out there focus on this, like Cosmos, for instance. We take a look at Axelar. But the thing is this. Sometimes what's really simple is hard to perfect. That's a thing, right? It's like, for instance, a lot of places, they have burgers. A lot of places out there, they sell spaghetti. But the thing is, making it good, even though some people would arguably say it's kind of simple, that's the difficult part, right? So when I take a look at Polkadot right there, I think within the layer zero space, because it is a layer zero blockchain, within that space of interoperability, Polkadot has already kind of, I think, just done it a lot better than some other projects out there in terms of the fundamentals. Not in terms of the charts, but in terms of the fundamentals. And also, if we take a look at it, what is really overtaking Polkadot in terms of popularity within the interoperability space? First of all, we take a look at Cosmos. Its native token called Atom, it's just way lower in market cap when compared to Polkadot's native token called Dot. Let alone Axelar. Axelar is just way smaller than even Cosmos, or should I say Atom, its native token. So yeah, it's naturally, again, a lot smaller than Polkadot. So in terms of a project that's really focused on interoperability, Polkadot is the one that I often think about when I think about this space. So within its own niche, it already has kind of a grasp in a sense where it's the arguable number one as of right now in terms of popularity within its niche. So people like to say, but Cosmos is going to make it. They say that. They also say that Axelar is going to make it. But if those projects that are focused on interoperability are quote unquote, some people like to say, going to make it, why wouldn't the number one within that space suddenly not make it? Keep in mind, right? Dot has over, and again, Dot is Polkadot's native token. It has over 1 million holders. Not to mention as well, we have to take a look at the clarified tokenomics when it comes to Dot. Not too long ago, it was confirmed that the maximum supply when it comes to Dot was going to stay at 2.1 billion. So if I combine that with Polkadot 2.0, I see that many developers, and I also see how Polkadot's use case, I don't think it's necessarily outdated. That right there, again, I personally think that it's just reasons for me to still, I think, not mind it, fundamentally speaking, in a sense where other projects out there, it feels like it's out of date, but I just don't feel like that is the case here for me, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Keep in mind, Dot actually still being below $1.50, despite Bitcoin being at around 80 grand, it may seem kind of like very disappointing at first, but the more I think about it, the more I kind of feel like, okay, I mean, is Warren Buffett dollar cost averaging into stocks when it's low or when it's high? Historically, I see him doing it when it's kind of low. So I kind of don't think about it any different, I suppose, even though Dot, of course, is not a stock, right? It's not a security, but I'm just saying, at the same time, yeah, I just kind of take that same principle where, okay, it's below $1.50, but I don't mind $4 cost averaging, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. And also, furthermore, if we take a look at just being at around $1.30, I get it. It may sound like really bad at first glance, but also on the flip side, if we take a look at December 2024 being at around $10.50, I mean, what, we're around 8 times lower than that, which is like kind of, I guess, surprising to me in a good way, right? Because if I take a look at it, right, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, BNB, and all this, if they go back to where they once were in December 2024, they're not around 8 times lower than that. Which again, it's a testament to how well they've held up, but at the same time, like Polkadot, because it's had that much of a pullback, if it had a recovery, it sometimes might feel a little bit more dynamic, arguably some people would like to say. Could it ever return back to that? Who knows? But I'm just observing what I can see from the charts. Even if I just want to take a look at it like from a more, I think, simplistic way, right? In September of 2025, DOT was around $4.40. So basically, we're still over 3 times lower than that currently. I mean, even Bitcoin is not over 3 times lower than its all-time high. This is just my point of view. Now, of course, this is a little bit different. DOT, it's an altcoin. Bitcoin is not an altcoin. But if I just take a look at it purely from a hypothetical perspective, if they were to recover to where they once were back in September of 2025, would I choose Bitcoin or Polkadot? I don't know if I'd be such a fan of Bitcoin at that point just because, okay, sure, if it went back to where it once was in September 2025, that'd be awesome, but it's not even 2 times lower than that as of right now. Granted, though, there's many microcaps out there that if they were to recover, hypothetically, it could outperform DOT greatly, in my opinion. But I don't want to believe in a microcap. That's just not my style. I just don't feel like I need to believe in a microcap. But at the same time, I don't want to believe in a project that's like way too massive. That's the thing. So I kind of like that middle ground. I like a project that's more established, but at the same time, kind of around 3 times or around 5 times lower than where they once were last year, maybe, or let's say back in 2024. I like those type of ranges when it comes to a project. And Polkadot, hypothetically, in this particular case, it does fit my criteria, even though it's not the only project that I hold. And I never just want to hold only one project, but I'm just saying, still, if Bitcoin going back to its all-time high is already considered like a big celebration, even though it's not even around 2 times lower than that, if DOT goes back to where it once were in September 2025 and we're over 3 times lower than that, that's suddenly not a celebration for me. It doesn't make sense. It would be actually a celebration personally for me just because of that specific movement. But at the same time as well, this is just a only time will tell type of scenario. If Polkadot just went back to where it once was in September 2025, either that, so either around $4.40 all the way up until where it once was in 2024 at around $10.50. So again, either DOT goes from around $4.40 to $10.50 approximately. Either of those ranges, anywhere in between, if it could go there from where it is as of right now to either of those ranges, I have zero complaints. Like, I don't even need an altcoin season anymore. And I don't even think September 2025 was an altcoin season, let alone also December 2024. So that's just how low Polkadot is, which granted, again, it being low may not sound like such a good thing, but I don't mind because what happens if it recovers, right? That's just my point of view. It doesn't mean it will, but that's just the way you take a look at it. So I'm still waiting, but you know what? I'll still document my journey along the way. So hopefully, y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.